Welcome to Sex Talk Radio, a podcast that explores kink and sex through candid and curious conversations. Join me and expert guests in exploring taboos and unpacking what it means to be sex and kink positive.
How would you tell your family and friends you're now naked online? Like most people could never do it, much less turn it into a lucrative profession. But it is a full-time job. And like, why do you think I had this documentary made? You have to get press, because if they don't know who you are, they don't know to subscribe to your page. So I'm constantly pitching myself to get media coverage, because the more people who know about you, the more money you're going to make.
I'm so excited to introduce you guys to Butter. Butter Wellness makes external prostate massagers for men. They're extremely high-powered, no insertion necessary, and they give really incredible prostate orgasms. You can get 20% off by going to butterwellness.com and use code SEGGS, SEGGS. Okay. Hi, Nikole Mitchell.
Hi.
Welcome to Sex Talk Radio.
Thank you so much for having me on.
Yeah, let's jump in.
Yes.
Was it yesterday that you announced the documentary that you have?
Yeah, just a couple days ago. So it just came out this week.
Oh, it's out. Okay.
It came out on Monday, and
awesome.
I love it so much.
Cool. It seems like part of the intention with it is to show how sex work and motherhood can live together. But I would love to know more about
that is the perfect
intention.
summary of that. Please capture and share that.
Yeah.
It is. It's a blend of how do you do sex work and be a mom of multiples at the same time. And so this documentary gives you the inside glimpse, the front row seat to what it looks like. And to me, when you watch it, it's very seamless. It's very beautiful. It's very effortless.
Yeah.
But when you watch it, the documentary crew has me read some of the hate comments. And the assumption is, and it's always the most conservatives who are the most perverted, because
right,
the comments I get is, how could you involve your children in sex work? And it's they're two separate things. My work supports my family. They're no way in my sex work. It's such common sense, but the comments they leave me are pretty baffling.
Yeah. I talked about this with a guest in LA. We were talking about Riley Reid, the porn star, and just how wild of a transition it was when she had her baby, the comments and the same people that were consuming her content. And it's so tied into the Madonna whore complex of you're either pristine mother or and then that transition. And it seems like it's been difficult for her with comments and how people kind of see her now. And it's really difficult. So yeah, I would love to learn more. How many? You have 2 kids?
I have 5.
What?
I have a lot of kids.
Okay. How old are you?
I am 40, which is shocking.
Girl, you look
Someone lied on my
amazing.
birth certificate. I swear. I feel 22. I don't know how that happened, but yes.
I need your Botox person. And or maybe it's just because you're living your fucking mission.
I'm half Asian, so I do think that plays into it. I look very white, but I do think it's my Asian genes with a little Botox helps out. Yeah.
Love it. Okay, 5. Oh my goodness. Yes. I also definitely thought you were early 30s.
Thank you.
Tell me about your journey. I mean, we found each other on Instagram, and the tagline is the pastor to stripper. So let's get into your story.
Let's get into it. So for anyone who's new to my story, I was raised very conservative and very religious household. My whole life was church. I lived at church 3 days a week. And very early, I picked up on the script of what my role was as a girl, because I noticed all the girls or women were either in the nursery or the kitchen. All the men held the leadership position.
At the church.
At the church. Yep. So they never even had to explicitly teach me that my role was to be in the kitchen and nursery. I just saw it. There was no other option. So I absorbed that as a little girl and was like, okay. And I'm when I do something, I'm 100% in. So I'm I'm going to be the best good girl there ever was. And I grew up during the purity culture movement where you save your virginity for your future husband. And I pledged myself. And then when I did have sex before I got married, I felt like a horrible failure and a horrible human. Just all this guilt and shame that I just really stuffed down. And, I was told to date as few men as possible, marry one as soon as possible, have his kids as quickly as possible, and stay home and you'll have reached the pinnacle of your existence. Wow. And I did that. I dated very few men, married one, had 3 kids with him, stayed home with my babies, and I was quite miserable. And that's when I started really questioning everything I'd been taught. I was told my whole life this would be my pinnacle of fulfillment, and I am frazzled and miserable and unfulfilled. who's lying here? Is my experience lying to me, or is my upbringing lying to me? And so I had to start unpacking and learning. Yeah. And through all this, like I discovered I'm actually a beautiful slut. I love taking my clothes off. I'm a very sexual person, but I had to stuff all of that down my entire life to fit in with the narrative that was passed down to me.
I think you mentioned that for a long time you'd been taking like sexy photos though, right? Yeah. Like kind of behind closed doors or like the sexual energy is there. And I talk a lot about that with my guests. Like when you bring up like being horny as a kid, it's kind of like a weird thing to talk about, right. But it's like this theme of all of my guests of like, we had this sexual energy when we were young, but it was so not okay to talk about or express. And so, I mean, it kind of similar with my story. It was like, there was this kind of secretive slutty side.
Yes.
And so, yeah, what did that transition look like? I mean, that's a huge transition.
So really the catalyst that kicked it all off was realizing I was queer. And it just threw me, because I'm like, how can I be in this body full time and not even know my own sexuality?
Wow.
Like, how repressed must I be? So when I realized I wasn't straight, and my entire life was dedicated to my straightness. I was married to a dude. I had children. I was at a church in a pastoral position where you are not allowed to be queer. Right. So I knew if I came out with my queerness, I could lose everything. I could lose my job. I would lose my marriage. Like,
the pastor was a paid job, or was it
no
underpaid? Okay,
churches do not pay. Like they
exploit the Lord
labor. Yes, I have so many issues with that. Yeah. So no, I was not paid, even though I again worked there multiple days a week. Yeah. And I remember I asked them, and they make millions of dollars a year. It's a mega church, and I remember like, I need to be paid something, guys. Like, we just don't have it in the budget. And so after one of those, I like quit one of my I had 2 pastoral positions, and I'm like, until you pay me, I'm not coming back and preaching for you. And they're like, okay.
Wow.
Like, they just very exploitive. So when I realized this queerness identity of me, I had to decide, do I take it to the grave? Because I look straight, I sound straight, I present straight, or do I want to risk coming out with my truth? And at the end of the day, I'm a very authentic person, and I decided to come out with it and just see where the chips may fall. Wow, and it was a massive transformation, very difficult, but it eventually ended up into the most beautiful life that I live now.
Wow. What made you realize you were queer? Was it a certain experience with a woman?
I was getting more plugged into the queer community to be a good ally. And I just think, I think sometimes our bodies know the truth before our brains catch on.
Sure.
My body was drawn to the queer community, and I'm going to all these queer events to be a good ally. And every time I go to one of these events, I would find myself magnetically attracted to so many of these queer humans. I'd be like, I'm just a really loving person. I'm just a really loving person, as I'm like trying to maintain my horniness. And then finally, like, I was watching Grey's Anatomy, and there's a bi character, and she says something about, I fall in love with bodies or souls, not body parts, and it resonated. And so there's a few different things that caused the coin to go in the slot. And then I was at another queer event, and that's when it hit me. Wow. Oh my gosh, I'm not straight.
Yeah. Yeah. And did that marriage end?
Yes. And not right away. I have a very beautiful of an ex-husband. He's a very good man, and he was very supportive. When I came out to Miss Queer, he celebrated me, thought it was awesome. And
was he as involved in the church as you were?
I was more involved. And then eventually he quit church before me. And when I finally quit church, he was like, finally. Like, he was always more progressive than me. Yeah. And I always called him my gateway drug to all things liberal. Like, he'd always let me question everything and be like, why do you think that, Nicole? Or why do you think you were taught that as a kid? And really set me free, which is crazy because I became super liberal and then he became super conservative. So like, life is a freaking trip.
Yeah. It's been a weird few years.
It's a weird thing. But he supported me. And then over the years, as I stepped more and more into my sexuality and more into wanting to be a sex worker, it just became too much for him, which I totally understand. Yeah. And he changed a lot. And that's when we decided it's just time to end it.
Did you get married like at 18 or how old were you?
No. So I was 25. Okay. So I went to Bible college. Okay. And after Bible college, I was already enrolled in seminary because I was like, I'm a nerd at heart. I love to learn and I wanted to be the godliest woman possible. But I ended up getting a job in South Korea, which is my homeland, teaching high school, and that's where I'd meet my future husband. Was in Korea. So my plans kind of took a turn, and then I married him, and I blinked, and 10 years went by. I had 3 kids, and I'm like, wait, this isn't the life that I wanted to live. I'm not fulfilled. What do I want? And that kind of is what catapulted me into moving to California, starting an OnlyFans, like really like taking life by its horns and saying, this is what I want for my life, not the default script, but based on my desires.
So it was 10 years until the queerness and the realizations of it. Okay, wow. And you were a pastor that whole 10 years or between 25 and 30?
Yeah, it was in my 30s that I went to this church, and they mentored me, and I took on the position, and I was there for about trained and being a pastor is about 5 years at that church.
That's incredible. I mean, there's an interesting theme. A lot of my guests had very strict religious childhoods and experiences. And I think that there's almost this thing that I identified with a guest once of like the devotion to a church or a God, but then if you can explore that devotion with a partner or in kink, specifically in BDSM, it can be really beautiful.
Yes.
I grew up not religious. My parents both had that strictness, and so they were like, do whatever you want, which has been really cool.
Wow.
And I still ended up, super kinky on this side of things, but
I love it.
Yeah. So I think you mentioned you had kind of like an arsenal of photos, right? Or OnlyFans content. And similar to like what I've done on Patreon is it started off very like, I'm going to start here.
It's so
where did you start? Yeah, it is.
I think
like,
those
here's
who subscribe.
Side boob.
Yeah. For those who subscribe from the beginning, they really get a treat. And even people who subscribe later, if they're willing to scroll back to the beginning, because I think they see your evolution, they'll see my evolution. I was very shy. I was very nervous. I didn't show anything explicit. Everything was covered. So I had lingerie covering, or I'd have my hands covering. Yeah. And I'd post one photo like every 5 days, like very new and nervous. And then they got to see me evolve in real time. I've been doing it for almost 5 years now. And slowly, like, they'd ask for different custom content. I'm like, I don't know about that yet. Yeah. I'll let you know.
It's a process.
And like, it is. And now I've gone the other extreme where I make all the explicit content, but it was a journey. And I think that's part of why I have such a diehard following is they get to see the story unfold in real time. There's no pretending, there's no faking. It's been very authentic. And I do all these documentaries so people can see like, this is who I am and how I live. Yeah. And it's been a really beautiful journey for me. Yeah.
That's advice that I give to women who are starting like a Patreon or OnlyFans is like, be authentic, because when I started a Patreon or OnlyFans, I had one for like a few days, but I realized it was not, it didn't feel good to me because I was trying to be what I thought like an OnlyFans model was supposed to be doing. Ooh, and for some reason, Patreon let me just feel a little more free with that. But there are so many women on OnlyFans nowadays, and I feel like they all kind of look the same and it all kind of blurs together. And people really care about you if you're willing to share who you are on social and on these platforms. But they're not going to know there's more to you unless you share that across platforms.
Yes. And I think that's a big perk of mine because I was naive when I started. You know, people have like stage names. I didn't know that was a thing. I've always used my real name for better, for worse. But it ended up being for the better because people find out like, when they find me on social media, it's the same person. And when you follow me on these different platforms, you see different iterations of myself and different expressions of myself. And I think that's what they love. Yeah. So I recommend always being authentic. That is your niche, right? Like I think when we try to be who we think they want us to be, you'll fizzle out. It's not sustainable. Yes. And I always tell people go slow. People are so quick to want to jump in and do the most explicit, sexy thing. But there's something really beautiful about like the art of seduction and the art of teasing and the art of being authentic. Like when you jump in before you're actually ready or because you think you're supposed to do, it's you're just shooting yourself in the foot. And there's something about like bringing them on that journey with you. Yeah. And even for me, I waited a few years on my OnlyFans before I did girl content. And then I realized I was so excited to do girl and I loved it and I've made a lot of money doing it. But once you do it, it becomes normal very quickly.
Yes.
And even though I waited years to do it, I honestly wish I'd waited even longer just because of how quickly it becomes commonplace and then just becomes expected. Like, when's your next girl coming out? And it's like, no, this is like a treat. Like, this is something really sacred and beautiful. Yes. Like, you don't automatically get it all the time.
Right.
So I just don't think enough content creators go slow enough because we're just like, get the money. But it's like, I think in the long term, there's more money when you know how to take your time.
Yeah. And I think that women can also have more negative experiences when they just jump in from what I've heard to shooting. I don't do video content, but like from jumping right into shooting porn. And there's also a lot of like things you need to know from what I've heard on OnlyFans of like people need to be signing if you're both in a scene together. Like there's a lot of rules and regulations and testing and just like.
And it's gotten stricter over the years. Yeah. It used to be really relaxed and whatever. And now OnlyFans has gotten really strict. So like they're always adding new policies and procedures. So there's a pretty big learning curve, and if you go slow, it's sustainable. If you try to dive right in, it can be pretty frustrating. Yeah.
And I also tell people like it's a fucking full-time marketing job. Like truly. Like I mean,
laugh because
it seems
real.
like it seems like you were a little ahead of the curve because I feel like everyone and their mom got on OnlyFans during the pandemic. People were home, bored, horny, I don't know. And so like if you said you've been on there for 5 years, it sounds like you were like a little ahead of that boom. But still, I mean, a lot of people need to post on Reddit, Twitter, Instagram, and there needs to be different content for each one. Like what I've seen is it's like you need to be sexy but not violating community guidelines on Instagram. You need to like show your body or your nipples or whatever on Twitter, but still leave more content that they can pay for. Like it's fucking crazy.
It's a lot of work. I think when people leave comments like, oh yeah, it must be so hard taking your clothes off online and making money. I'm like, baby, you try it. Yeah. Try it for a week. You wouldn't be able to do it. Not even would you not make money, but you wouldn't be able to handle the pressure and the stigma that comes with it. How would you tell your family and friends you're now naked online? Like most people could never do it, much less turn it into a lucrative profession. But it is a full-time job. And like, why do you think I had this documentary made? You have to get press because if they don't know who you are, they don't know to subscribe to your page. So I'm constantly pitching myself to get media coverage because the more people who know about you, the more money you're going to make. So it is a lot of work. To me, it's very fulfilling and very rewarding. But if you jump into it thinking you're going to make immediate bucks and like all you got to do is post a few sexy photos and disappear, like
it's so much more. Yeah, it's taken me a long time to make anything substantial on Patreon, and I've given up almost given up a lot of times.
We've all been there.
But I found a really specific niche. I'm like mommy dom. Like I find like it's very niche, and so the people that resonate it, the men that resonate with it, are instantly going to get my $50 a month tier.
Yes.
So yes,
I
do
love
tiers.
that. Do tiers. I have $100 tier, and like
love
like
that.
People like I think people discount how much people will pay for something they want. People will pay a lot of money for what they want.
Especially when they're horny.
Yes, and we always buy what we want before we buy what we need. You get a tax refund, what do? You book that trip, you buy the cell phone. Like you spend it on things you want, not let's go pay off my bills. It's like that's not what we want to do at the end of the day. Right. So I have a $100 tier and I have, it's my VIP and that's on top of the subscription. So I have a $15 per month subscription. So $115 they pay. And there's all these perks because there's always subscribers who say, what's the best? What's the best option you have? I want the best of what you have to offer. And so I always provide that level of tier. So tiers are always good. And then even when I do my live streams, there's different tip tiers and I have tip tiers all the way up to $1,000. So like just normalizing in your fans' mind that you are available for more than just 5, 10, 15, 20. I expect to have subscribers who will pay $1,000 in a live stream. That's just a core belief in my body. Yeah. So I manifest it all the time. But if you only think they'll only pay to $5, $10,
or that's standard for OnlyFans. Yes. You charge $10 or whatever.
I am the standard, not OnlyFans. So I always tell my clients, like, you are the algorithm, you are the standard, you make the rules. The more you try to like find and fit their algorithm, I find like I give my power away. But if you can lock in that they want to come to you when you're ready, when you decide, it's way more empowering and way more lucrative.
People also see it as like this more luxury thing. Like they want the high. Like I was really struggling to even hit like $1,000 a month on my Patreon. I added the $50 a month tier and all of a sudden it was like thousands a month.
So much easier.
And I'm like, it's the elusive, it's the mystery. Yeah. It's what does it actually look like? What does she sound like? Like what is it?
The more
curiosity.
It's more intimate. Yeah, it's a more intimate exposure. And I find with my fans, the more they get to know me, the more they want to support me.
Yes.
The more they want to pay me. So when they find out I have multiple children, they're excited to give me gifts. That's what my latest documentary is actually on, is on how my fans provide for my children. So they send my kids gifts all the time. My kids add their items to my Amazon wish list all the time. When I took them to Disney World last year, I had a fan send me hundreds of dollars of cash in the mail. Please use this for your children at Disney World. Like, they want to give you money when they get to know you. And because I think I have such clean energy, there's never this sense of like entitlement, like you owe me money or like you're a wallet to me. Like, I deeply care about my subscribers.
I do too.
They're like the most amazing people.
I've been trying to do work around shifting that narrative, and I'd like to build a tech product around this someday to help creators connect more on an ongoing basis with their fans. Because I have like 5 or 10 men that pay me to sext with them, and it is like intimate fact. Like, I care about these men. Like, one of the guys bought me a Prada bag. I've never met him, but I care. But then when somebody on Instagram hears that, they're gonna be like, she doesn't give a fuck about this guy. Like, she just wants his money. And it's like, there's a dynamic here. Also, I do like play around with power dynamics a lot, so it's a bit more like those can create really intimate, situations. But I do care, and I think that's something important to shift.
And they can feel that. So haters can say what they want, but like our subscribers can feel the authenticity and the care that is there. And I get so many raving testimonials, and I even share them on my Instagram stories just so
that's a good idea.
Show them like show my followers like when you enter my space, it's the real deal. And when I just had 2 new subscribers, at least who announced it on my last live stream last week. And they were floored by the community because when they said, hi, I'm so-and-so, it's my first time here. Everyone on live streams like, welcome so-and-so, welcome.
Like a bunch of other dudes?
All the dudes. All the dudes. And that's what I love about my community. So and like, I almost cry on every live stream. It's become like a
maybe it's a kink for someone.
Because they know when you tip me, I typically cry. Because I'm just like, the fact that you'd be generous to me, I'm still so sensitive. Yes, I'm still so sensitive. I'm not desensitized.
Right.
And so my fans will then just tip back to back because they know if they do that more and more, I just like start bawling the most happy tears. And then my new subscribers are always like, I've never seen a community like this. And I'm like, that's right. When you subscribe, you don't even just get this hotness that I share. You get this very authentic, generous community. And I've had different times where fans have been in tight spots. And another fan's like, here, Nicole, this is my tip. In honor of them, give them a tip reward. So they tip for each other. And it's like literally the most beautiful community I've ever been a part of.
Well, and that's the thing is there's so many assumptions about who the archetype of the man is that subscribes to an OnlyFans. Like, there just is. My gosh. And I mean, I had those judgments prior to creating a Patreon. And the men that I connect with are like, I don't know. I don't want to be judgmental and spew off what that archetype is, but like, they're just not what I expected. They're not what I expected. And they're just genuinely curious about exploring power dynamics and being submissive. And like, it's just, I'm a safe space for them. And they're not at all what I ever imagined. And, attractive, younger, like you would never know. Same with Seeking Arrangements. I was shocked by what I found on there based on my prior preconceived notions. I
totally agree. That's why I even tell people, because I have a lot of women who are very curious who maybe aren't interested in having OnlyFans but want to know what the dynamics are like. So I have a lot of women who subscribe just to watch, because I'm like, just come in and watch my community.
I've done that,
just watch how my fans talk to me, how my fans talk to each other, because I think there's also this assumption and fear that you attract nasty, not only just simps, but like nasty, mean people. And I've had tens of thousands of subscribers. And and out of all of them, in the 5 years, I think I've maybe blocked 5 people, maybe. So it's like one person a year, maybe.
One.
Like, they're the most respectful, kind, generous, good, loving humans, and probably very similar to you. I attract men who are hungry, where they can, be sexual, but also be spiritual, talk about their kinks, and also talk about their kids. Can we talk about their fetishes and acknowledge their fears? Like, they want a space just like I want a space where I can bring my whole self. And my space is where they can bring their whole self. And I think, again, that's why they stick around for so long. It's so much more than, let's just get off here. Like, I actually get to know them.
The relationships are important, and a lot of sex work is therapy. Some unpaid therapy. No, I mean, it is kind of paid.
It is paid. They better be paid.
But like, the times that I just, end up thinking I'm going to like be sexting with somebody, and then we're talking about like a recent loss they've had or something we care about to get, like, it's different. It's special.
Something I do with my fans is I take notes on them. Like, so on OnlyFans, you actually can
That's a good idea.
edit notes.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I always put significant.
It's a little hard to keep them straight sometimes.
Yeah. When you get
10 people you're
a ton. And so I try to write key markers and key things, like when I've had, fans who've been going through cancer. So I'll follow up later, like, how is the cancer treatments going? They're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe you remember. It's like these small acts I do that make such a difference. And they're like, I can't believe, like, I'm not just a number to you. And I'm like, no, like, how is this going for you? Or how's your, I have fans who book one-on-one calls with me.
Oh.
And I'd say probably 30 to 40% of them is for coaching support. Yeah. Their marriage is in a hard spot and they want to know how can they reconnect with their partner, or they want to leave their job, but they're terrified of the ramifications for them and their family, or they want to stand up to their family and like leave their family religion, and what would I recommend for them? Like, they're so hungry to have a better life. And I love that my space will take care of them sexually, but also in a very holistic part as well.
What was I going to say? Yeah. What platform do you use to have those calls?
I use Zoom right now.
Okay.
Even though it goes against OnlyFans terms and conditions.
This is part of what I want to build someday. Is like, there's something fucking missing, like for like these ongoing relationships. I was just curious. I know some people use Sext Panther, but it's like, I
haven't figured out an alternative yet.
So they pay you. I see. Okay. Yeah. It's definitely a lot of just chatting and getting to know someone, because the actual act of a guy getting off is like a 5-minute fucking thing. So they often want more than that 5 minutes. So where in this journey were you on Dr. Phil? Because that's kind of how I
Yes. You know what I love about the Dr. Phil story?
Yes.
So I think they reached out to me in 2020. So like which is the year I went viral. And maybe it's
tell me about going viral first.
Yes. Okay. So
the whole shebang.
Yes. It was long before I went viral. I've always wanted to go viral. And I think when you know you're meant to have like a massive influence impact, I think a lot of us desire to go viral. And I'd always watch these people online go viral for doing stupid shit. And I'm like so jealous because I'm not someone who does stupid stuff. And I don't do things just to get attention. I'm way too authentic. And I was like, I wish I could just be more shallow and make silly
do
content.
Something ridiculous that'll go viral.
I just can't do that. So I really locked in this identity of like, I'm someone who goes viral. I'm someone who pops again and again and again, because I want to have a massive impact. I want to make a massive income. And typically going viral is going to do that for you. So I remember in 2020, I was going through my own massive life change. If I was getting divorced, COVID happened. I moved from Minnesota to California. I went from food stamps to generating my own first 10K months. Like I was all within a year, right? So it's massive change. And I came out as queer and all these things. And I just wanted to help people really have the courage and the permission to step into their truthiest truth. Like stop censoring, stop watering down. You've got one life. Like let's freaking go. And as someone who is doing it in real time and very openly, I'm like, if I can make these massive changes, then surely whatever change you're facing, you can do it too. And I left my church. I'm doing adult content, like all these changes.
Wow.
So I start pitching myself because I'm like, I want to grow my life coaching business. And so I start pitching myself as the pastor turned stripper. Because I'm like, well, I was a pastor. Catchy. Now I get paid to take off my clothes. So it's stripper is the best. Like, you're trying to create a catchy phrase. And I don't know media. I don't watch TV. I don't read the news. I am so not a TV person. So I'm just pitching to different outlets that I don't know. And I pitched to the New York Post, not knowing that they're a big platform. And they immediately were like, we need to interview you tomorrow. The journalist interviewed me the next day. And then she published my article the next day.
Holy shit.
And I was working with a media team back then. I'm like, is this a big deal? They're like, is this a big deal, Nicole? It's one of the most read publications in the world. And I had no idea. And I had no idea that it would go viral, right? You never know
what's going to pop. Article.
Yeah, it's just an article. Wow. And that thing blew up. And that weekend I was actually on a trip to Arizona for a modeling trip. And I just kept getting notifications of my OnlyFans subscribers. And I made like $40,000 that day. And I was like, what is happening? And I made $100,000 that weekend because like the world found out about my story. And it was so funny because I started getting these comments because the haters, you get all the lovers and you get all the haters.
I do viral strategy, and it also worked because it's controversial. And when you have two people going at each other in the comments, like no easier way to go viral.
Yes, my haters have made me a lot of money. Thank you.
Yeah, 1,000%
They made me a lot of money. But it was so funny after it went viral, I'd get comments like, you planned this whole thing, you strategized this whole thing. And I started laughing because I'm like, I'm not that brilliant. Like as much as I'd like to take credit for like planning and making this my viral moment,
you're like, I had a good tagline, but
and I created that tagline to blow up my life coaching business. I had no intention to blow up my OnlyFans, and that blew it up. And like, that's when my whole career really started. And I don't know, a matter of months after that, Dr. Phil's team reached out to me, but they wanted the drama, like the traditional old school Dr. Phil. Like, we want fights. We want this to be argumentative. We're going to bring on your nemesis. And I'm like,
who would your nemesis be?
Well, they wanted my ex-husband on there. And Jesus. Like, because he's the father of my kids, I will not risk that relationship. And I just said, listen, I know this can make me so much money. Because again, controversy and polarization will make you a lot of money. I don't want to make my money that way. I want to make money being authentically me. I'm not a fighter at the end of the day. And I said, and I told Dr. Phil's team, I'm like, I know this is how you guys have always done things, but there is such a hunger in the world for like deep conversation. So if you're willing to have a deep conversation, I'm a wide open book. You can ask me anything. And I think your audience is ready for it. Yeah. And they're like, we're not available for that. And I'm like, okay, well, if you change your mind, please call me back.
Big deal for you.
3 years later.
For that, though,
I
truly,
know.
Because I mean,
I turned them down.
It's also addictive to get offers like that. And
And I think, you know, I teach media classes and I work with a lot of life coaching clients, and I always teach people like, you get to have fame on your terms. Like, yes, you can do that route if you want to do that route, but if it's not what you want to do, and if you want to sustain fame on your terms, you have to have the ability to turn down opportunities that could make you a lot of money, get you really famous, but you're miserable. Yes, I am so adamant. You have to do it on your terms or you will burn out. And I am so committed to not being a one-hit wonder. I want to be an ongoing wonder. So in order for me to be an ongoing wonder, I have to turn down amazing opportunities that are a fuck no in my body. And then the best part of that was 3 years later, they called me back and they said, Nicole, we're ready for a conversation. And I was like, oh, snap. Like, and we had the most amazing conversation on his show. Like, and he wasn't antagonizing. He wasn't his old school self. And who knows if it's because he got older or his team realized there's different a shift in our culture and it's a different strategy. Like, but it was so wonderful and very true to me. And I got so thrilled that is how I got to do my presence on his show and not the way they originally had wanted me to be.
And
there.
that they'd kept that in mind as they evolved their media strategy of like, oh, she would be a really good story. And let's not like, you know, bring out her ex-husband and do this chaotic bullshit thing.
Oh my gosh. It was so much better.
Yeah.
And it also made me money. Yeah. So like, again, you get to have it on your terms. You get to fame on your terms. You get to have money on your terms. You get to have your OnlyFans on your terms, whatever it is. I really find the more you do it on your terms, the longevity will be there and the joy will be there.
Yeah. I want to go back a little bit to talk about that first weekend and the $40,000 and all that stuff. I have a interesting relationship with money. Actually, last year before the podcast, I went viral talking about how to help women shift their relationship with money on TikTok. I created the Money Healing Club and built up this thing, but then eventually gave it to a therapist because it was just like I was like, this is not I can go viral in any niche, like on TikTok specifically. And I was just like, this is not the next 10 years of my life as much as I care about it. So I'm really passionate about money. Ever since I was a kid, probably you too, I've known I'm going to be wealthy. I've known I'm going to do this fucking thing and make a lot of money. And also when I went viral, I was sharing literally like a budgeting spreadsheet. It's so boring. But it took off and I made like $5,000 in a weekend selling a $20 budgeting spreadsheet for women.
I love this.
And there was something that came up for me in that weekend of not feeling worthy of passive income, of like seeing all the numbers. And I'm just curious what your experience was that weekend that you made like the 40 grand and you're in Arizona. Like, was it kind of like, holy fuck, or was it?
No, I was bawling my eyes out. It was the most invigorating, life-giving experience of my life at the moment and the most traumatizing and terrifying experience in my life, because no one knows what it feels like to go viral until you go viral. It's a very vulnerable thing, because now all of a sudden everyone has an instant, sudden, strong opinion about you. They've never met you. They've never spent 5 seconds with you, but they will tell you exactly who you are and what a horrible or amazing person you are. And you're holding the duality. And then when you see money come in, you're like, oh my God, oh my God. Oh
it's
my
a
God.
lot of mixed emotions.
Yes, and you're like, oh my God. Like, it's like thrilled, oh my God, and terrified, oh my God.
And then like, fuck you, you're a whore. And then it's like, wait, $1,000. Where do I?
Like, I love you. Wait, what? It is such a storm of emotion.
Yeah.
So it was a lot. And I don't think at that moment, I didn't have any fear yet of what if happens if this goes away. I think there was a delay in really fully realizing what was happening. And it was such big numbers so quickly. And I was actually in a really bad financial spot at that moment, which is how it so often works, right? Like, when you least expect it. But it does. To get where I am today, to be a wealthy woman, I've had to heal all those triggers and wounds that we got growing up from family or society. And I was on food stamps for 9 years before this moment. Wow. And so I was like very much identified as a poor woman. And then when you start making multiple 6 figures, then 7 figures, you're like, am I a poor woman, or was I a wealthy woman in a poor woman situation, right? So I had to shift into an identity of I'm a wealthy woman. This gets to be normal. It's safe for me to have this kind of money. It's good for me to have this kind of money. I'm meant for big money, and start to really normalize and integrate that. Otherwise, I've seen it time and time again. People self-sabotage and they end up right back where they were. And I never wanted that to be my story.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, this is not related to sex, but it can be. I just love talking about money.
Me too.
But for me, my thing was really like more addictive, problematic spending habits, because I'd watched people growing up use shopping as a way to comfort.
Yes.
Or like, oh, we're having a bad day. My mom would take me to Target. Like this patterning. And I'm sober from alcohol, so I just kind of have addictive personality in general. And I was realizing that it didn't matter how much I made. I could make $25,000 a year, 150, and it would all kind of be gone. And so it's taken me a lot of practice and asking for a lot of help from like financial advisors and now I just hired a new bookkeeper, like asking for support if you know you're meant to have a bunch of fucking money and you're on your way. Because if there's problematic habits there, and the financial therapist I created this club with, she was like, your issue is not when you're at zero. Your issue is when you get a $12,000 check. What are you doing with it?
Yes. So it's so true, because money doesn't change you. The more money you make, it's just more money you can spend. So if you have a spending problem,
your expenses go up.
Yes, your expenses go up. So it's one thing to make money. It's one thing to have money. And that's something I find with a lot of my clients is easy to generate for some people. It's another thing to hold on to, feel safe with, and stack the cash. And so something I help my clients with is like start feeling into, it's sexy to have a fat bank account. It's sexy to see the cash stack. Like that gets to be the turn on. Because at first when you start making good money, that's the turn on. That's exciting. It's
or the buying.
Healing or life-giving. Yeah. And then you got to shift it into, what feels sexier, what I want to feel sexier is a fat bank account, is investments growing, is the longevity of my wealth. Because same thing, I don't want to be a one-hit wonder financially. I want to create generational wealth for me and my future and all the people I want to pass it down to, organizations I want to give. So part of what helps me with that shift is remembering my why. Who do I want to be able to give money to? What do I want to do with all this wealth I create in my lifetime? So when you feel that knee-jerk reaction to want to spend a lot, it's like, is this in alignment with my long-term goals? Yes. When I can't remember, was it Jim Rohn who said, the bigger the why, the easier the how. When you have a really big why, it makes the how of what you're doing so much easier.
Yeah, definitely. I could talk about money all day.
And it is connected to sex because
it is.
They're
two very taboo topics. And you and I both really like them.
And I told you earlier, I was like, I love being paid for sex, like, or for my time, my energy. There's been times my partner and I will have sex, and like when we're done, he'll throw money on me. And I'm just like, yes, like it's such a turn on for me. I love it. And I love reclaiming the purity and the beauty of that. I don't have to have this big long story about why. It's just like, I just fucking love money. Yeah. I just fucking love sex. I love getting naked online. I love getting paid to be me. Like, it just gets to be simple and powerful and lucrative. So yeah, I think we definitely have that in common.
And like the work that you and I are both doing is important because it's shifting these huge societal narratives. I mean, for men and women, you're not really supposed to talk about money. It's taboo.
Or sex.
Or sex, but especially both of those for women.
Yes, yeah.
And I would actually, before I started this TikTok about money, my friends would kind of make comments in family of like, why do you talk so openly about like how much you just made or how much you just spent or like, and I'm like, because I want people to understand how much it takes to run a business, because I just made 50 grand, but I just spent 60. Like, I want people to know. And it was like, it almost made family or friends uncomfortable. And that's what I realized one of my superpowers is like taking the taboo subjects, money and sex, and just being like, let's fucking talk about it.
I love it. The fact that they even asked you the question is the answer to that question. The fact that you are asking me why I'm talking about it is exactly why I'm talking about it, because no one's talking about it.
Yeah.
The fact that you think this is weird or uncomfortable or awkward is exactly why I'm talking about it. It's like, I want to normalize safe spaces to talk about the very things we all want. We all want money at the end of the day. We all want to have a fabulous sex life at the end of the day. But if we're not willing to talk about it, how on earth are we going to get there?
And I mean, especially in American culture, those two things, money and sex, are like the biggest part of our culture. Yes. Like when people from other countries talk about America, that's kind of the energy they see. Yet we're not supposed to talk about it. We all are here because of sex, and money has ruled our lives since we were young. And it's like, yeah, I definitely think both should be talked about more.
So thank you for talking about it more and literally having a platforms where you do talk about it, because I just think it's so needed, and I think it's going to liberate all the humans, but especially women. I'm really passionate about women becoming so empowered in the bedroom and in their bank account and in their bodies. Like, I want women to feel solid amazing in every area of their lives and not feel like they have to settle for less. Yeah. In any of them.
Definitely. When you were young, did you ever have like fantasies or thoughts or dreams of like doing sex work? Because I
to this day, my whole life, I think like I'm a closeted high-end escort. Like, I love dressing up fancy. I love providing mind-blowing experiences. I love sex. I love being paid for my time, my body, my energy. So right now, the way I incorporate that is I call it paid dates. I do get paid to go on dates. And right now I don't offer any physical services, but we can go for lunch, for dinner, for drinks, and I get paid for that. I actually have one tomorrow.
Yes.
And I love it so much.
Yeah. Okay. I didn't know there was an intimacy. That's really interesting.
That's my niche. So I will give you an extraordinary experience, but there won't be intimacy, and men pay me for it.
Okay. Okay. When women come to me and ask about sugar dating, I usually say, and yes, you do have to have sex with them, because that's the first question I get, but I guess I will take that back. There are opportunities, but I think you also know what you're doing. Yes. So I think for younger women in their 20s in college, they're getting on the website, like seeking arrangements. It's just, I worry about the young girls doing it and not taking care of themselves.
I have a training for this.
Oh, so fantastic.
We just launched a training in March. And it was a huge hit, because I think that's a assumption that all women have, and men.
Yes.
But again, like I said earlier, I really believe you get to have it exactly on your terms. And so we have a program my client Carlene and I teach called Get Paid to Go on Dates. And we teach them our exact strategy where we both get paid a lot of money just to go on dates, and we don't offer physical services. And I think this is actually a growing niche where, again, like on OnlyFans, men are hungry for more than just sex. And I think there's something really hot where you get this energy and this body and your presence, but you don't get to take me home at night. I feel like it is a PhD in seduction and psychology. Where like you get so close and it just keeps them coming back for more, because they know I'm very upfront about it. So they know they don't get to have it at the end of the day, and there's something.
Do they
it's
like
a power
beg at the end?
No, they're so respectful. Yes, because I'm upfront about it.
Yeah.
I remember I had one gentleman, and he's 100 millionaire, and we had some dates together. And I just love him. And he's like, you're like the modern day book club. We get together, we have the best time, the deepest conversation, and then no sex.
Yeah.
And he's like, I love this. I want to be your first book club fan, your first book club subscriber or whatever. And we just would giggle every time, like, are you ready for your next book club appointment? Yeah. And he's like, let's do it. And there's men who are totally on board with that.
Well, and all these cities where Seeking Arrangements is kind of a hub, it's like they're men on business traveling around and they don't want the emotional situation of getting on a Bumble dating app and being like, hey, like, but they want to go have a nice dinner at a nice restaurant with a beautiful woman. And it's like, there are ways to do that.
We're available.
They're available. And it's funny. I feel like there's a couple of restaurants here that I've gone to where I'm like, oh, I think they're on dates.
Right. And the same way. Same in California. Because you see, there's things to pick up on.
And what kind of, blows people's minds when I've done sugar dating is like, they're like, why are you here? There can be kind of this like, well, why are you here? You're successful. You have all this stuff. I'm like, I fucking like this. It turns me on, actually.
It's very fulfilling.
And the people that I've gone on dates with from Seeking are the smartest men. And my biggest turn on is intelligence. If you can talk about the company you're building, I can tell you about the companies I've built. Like, that is my shit. I don't care what you look like. So it's the quality of intellectual stimulation I found from men on there has been pretty epic.
I love it. Do you identify as a sapiosexual or not to that extent where it's like intelligence is required for you to be turned on?
No,
or just,
I also really like random and kind of anonymous sex.
I love it.
But they're different categories. Yeah. Like one is like sexual specific and then but in terms of actual long term, like if there's not intelligence and that connection and like kind of fascination for me, I'll be bored by like the second date. So for long term anything, I need you to be real smart and creative.
I love that. And that's what I feel like Seeking and these different websites offer. Like when I've met these men and gone on dates with them, I'm like, I would never have met them probably otherwise outside of these websites. And so I'm very grateful. And I love being that breath of fresh air because like here comes this beautiful woman, but I'm very articulate and intelligent and have built wealth and success on my own terms. And I love being able to provide so much more than I think even they think when I walk in the room.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I don't know why. Like, I remember, I think it was like middle school and I was on a road trip. I'm from Alaska, so I lived in the middle of fucking nowhere. Wow. And I remember like buying an audiobook for this road trip that I was listening to on my own. And it was like about a brothel. And it was like, I don't know why, but I'm so curious. And still to this day, I think I have some past life shit with sex work and like, because I'm fascinated by the historical element of this. And the fact that sex work has been around forever, as long as people. And so you wouldn't consider escorting?
Oh, I consider it every day.
I have a friend who makes thousands of dollars on one date.
Yeah.
And then also because you're queer, like she was telling me that guys will get two women together and pay them both like 10 grand. I mean,
so down.
Like, and again, similar to Seeking, she's like, we vet them even more thoroughly than on Seeking. And she's like, these are the smartest, wealthiest, nicest men.
I consider it every day. So, it's kind of like my OnlyFans. I started really slow. Yes. And I'm on the same journey with this. I'm going really
Recommend
slowly.
that for all women, especially if they're young. If you're young, I just want them to be careful. But go slow. I
like to go slow because I think it's easier to go slow than go fast and then try to repair the damage. Like maybe that does mean I am 40 where I'm like, I just want to be very thoughtful and intentional with my decisions. But I think about it every day and I think I would be excellent at it.
Yeah. Yeah. So much money. It's wild. Wish I could clone myself. Send her out. I'm
just
too busy.
Give AI a little more time and then we'll get there.
Yeah, I know. So what are your kids' age ranges?
So I have 8, 11, 13, 15, 17.
Holy shit.
Yep. They're all amazing. I really feel like I hit the jackpot with all of them. I was a very rebellious, kind of mean.
Me too.
Lots of issues growing up. Yeah. And I think I was always afraid I'd have kids like that. But they are all so mature, so fun, so loving. Like I'm like, how did I get these kids? Like, and I've been very intentional trying to break generational patterns, starting new ones in my family line. Like that's really important to me. But even still, I'm pretty blown away by these kiddos. Wow. They're amazing.
Wow. You were rebellious in the church when you were in the church teenage years still? Or?
Yes, but I took it out my family. Yeah. So they suffered the most and
Yeah. And how have you navigated? I actually asked if anybody had questions for you. And I think that was the one question I got for you is just like navigating, talking to your kids about these things. And Was that hard for you initially? How old was your oldest when you started OnlyFans? Like that kind of thing.
Gosh, so 5 years ago,
it would have been teenagers already.
Well, those are my two bonus sons. So they weren't in my life yet. So my biological are the 8, 11, 13. So 5 years ago, they would have been 8, 6, and 3. Okay. So quite young.
Yeah.
And the way it started is like, mommy's a model, right? And then it became like, oh, mommy's a lingerie model. And then it was mommy's a nude model. And that was pretty normal. And then I've had so many documentaries filmed about me, like crews coming to my home, and they hear me do all these interviews. They hear me talk about my work. So they know I have an OnlyFans. They don't know specifics. And we have a very open household. So whenever they ask me questions, I will always answer according to their age and their maturity level.
Sure. I love that.
And they, probably about a year ago, a couple of my two, they would have been 10 and 12 back then, kind of gave me some shit for it. Like, I think they're kind of embarrassed or like, I don't know, just that stage of like, mom's not cool. And then they've both shifted back into like, they think I'm cool and they're really kind and respectful to me. And I asked one of them, like, what happened here? Like, do you remember how you kind of thought I was like totally uncool and now you're back to thinking I'm really cool? Like, what shifted? And one of my kids said, I realized you were cooler than I thought you would be. And I'm like, oh, okay. Like, and now there's just respect because they now see how much money I make and they see the lifestyle I'm able to provide for them. Their dad, unfortunately, doesn't make as much. So like they see the contrast. And so I just found out a few weeks ago, my 13-year-old has me in her phone as Mama Millionaire, right? Like they see, like, I think that's also part of the respect is like mom can afford anything is how they kind of view it. And I think that feels good to them on some level.
And it also doesn't fucking matter what the parent does for a living. There's always the mom is uncool face. There's always the parents are uncool face. Like truly, like my mom is so fucking cool. And like she was very uncool when I was 13 to 16. So it doesn't matter.
I know. I'm crossing my fingers. That was the only streak we'll have of that. But I know that's so, it's such a normal process in the adolescence.
Have you ever had anything happen where they tell their friends or their friends tell the parents that you're a nude model? And like, have you ever gotten flack from other parents?
That way, yes. Because I live in Orange County, which when I moved there, I didn't know was super conservative. I thought when I was moving to California, I'm like, the wild, wild west. I'm so excited. And then I moved to Orange County.
Kind of a vibe.
It's incredibly conservative. And I was like horrified. It's like I moved from the Midwest back to the Midwest, just in California. So, and I'm a very open person. So as I'd meet moms, I'd just kind of be open. Like, yeah, I'm a life coach and I'm a model. And they're like, what kind of model? I'm like, OnlyFans. And so quickly, as soon as they'd find out what I do, there'd be no more play dates. And so it would affect my kids that way. And it would make me so sad that they would judge me and stop the friendship
as if you're unsafe
kids.
because you're involved in sex work or adult work. Yeah.
So now I don't do that anymore. I'm not open. And so I just say, I will say I'm a life coach and model because if they eventually find my social media, I don't want them to feel like I lied to them.
Right.
But I won't answer questions about modeling. I'll just say, I'll just focus on my life coaching, which has been better. So now it doesn't affect my kids' friendships, but I cannot go into any depth with these women. I've had this one woman friend for 2 years. She has no idea what I do. And it's just like, I love talking about money and sex and business. And I'm just like, how's the kids? How's the weather? And like, so I struggle making friends where I live because I just play it safer there.
I should connect you with a past guest. She might be able to connect you with other people in Orange County. She lives in Orange County, has an OnlyFans. Have you found any moms, local moms that also make adult content that you've been friends with?
Gosh.
We need to find you
There's
some.
got to be so many.
There
I
are.
think they're like, I mean, considering how public and open, I'm like, where are my girls at?
Yeah.
It's so funny. I met this neighbor in my neighborhood, and when I saw her, she opened her front door, there's like crosses everywhere, and I'm like, like I got so triggered, I'm like, oh my God, I'm like, why are Orange County women so conservative? And then she invited me in and gave me a tour of our house, and she had a stripper pole in her bedroom. I'm like, you conservative women, you're all freaks behind closed doors, but you give me shit for my lifestyle. So like, I know we could bond over so much, but they just will not. And even since she's never brought it up, she never she keeps the conversation so surface. But I'm like, we have a lot more in common if you just like open up, but they just don't open up to me like that. Yeah.
And do you like Orange County? Does that feel like your long-term?
It's so great for kids. Okay. Like it's very family friendly, great schools, like great homes. It's so great for family. But if I was single or didn't have kids, I would definitely live in LA. Like I'm a city girl. Absolutely. Yeah. But this is the mom life that I live.
Well, remind me to connect you with CJ. I would love that.
I know CJ, but she's in LA. So if she has Orange County friends.
She's in LA, but she was in Orange County for many, many, many years.
Okay.
Before she moved there.
Okay.
Yeah.
CJ hooked me up.
Yeah. I'll connect you guys. 'Cause she's hilarious.
Yeah, she's amazing.
Yeah. So I feel like there's more to kind of explore with the kids thing. Anything else that comes to mind that has come up for you with that?
You know what's interesting is when people ask, 'cause I have 3 boys and 2 girls, and they'll always ask, how would you feel if your daughter got into this work? They never bring up the boys, and just shows like, again, just the stigma of like female sex workers, or the assumption, like they don't even question if my boys would ever get into it. And it's just,
there are men in sex work.
Yes. Like it's so interesting.
Yeah. Because it's instantly, that question is making it wrong.
Yes.
That it would be wrong if she did that.
Yep. Totally. That's the assumption is like, it's one thing for you to do it. How would you feel if your kids? I'm like, I would support them. Like what? There's nothing wrong with this career. Like if anything, I'd be jealous because they'd be beating me. Like they started so much younger than I did. Like that's one thing I do wish I'd started when I was younger. I probably been one of those girls who would have started at age 18. Like, and I would have learned through the hard way, but that's how I've learned.
Oh yeah, you said something like you asked your friends when you were younger, don't you guys all want to be strippers? I feel like
the looks on their faces, I'm like, oh,
we would have been best friends.
I'm the only one who thinks that way. Like,
it's so funny.
Doesn't everyone take their clothes off?
Well, and I think that there's such a massive thing that I'm uncovering, which is like the assumption that we are forced into this financially, and there's nothing wrong if that's how you find this path at all. Obviously, there's a lot that's wrong if there's any trafficking involved or coercion or anything.
Right.
But for me, it was more of a kink related thing. Like I was like, I like money, and like I like being. I'd rather get $1,000 to go have a nice evening with you than zero.
Yes.
And so it kind of started as a kink, and then it's like this is just like a fun thing. It doesn't have to be this. She was forced into it and she must actually hate it. It's almost like society wants us to catch us saying that we actually don't want to be doing this.
Yeah, because they can't fathom us saying, I choose this, I want this, I like this, I do this, period.
It's paying my
it's
family's
so
bills.
Simple. And like this idea that, oh, you're exploiting yourself. I'm like, how about when I was a pastor and I was paid $0 for all those years? That's not being exploited. How about when I was a high school teacher making $25,000 a year? That's not exploiting me for my time and labor and body. Like this job is the easiest on my body than any other. I was a bartender working till 2 a.m. pregnant with my 3rd kid. That's not exploiting me. Like I've had it so much harder in other careers, making way less money. And yet again, it's that American value of like work hard for your pennies. And it's like, well, what if I could just make millions not working that hard? And it's like, how dare you? But I want to normalize big money especially for women.
Yes.
You don't have to slave away for it if that's not what you want. Like we can set you up to where you get to make money on your terms in a way that feels good for you. And it's massively lucrative.
Yeah. I mean, I love the podcast. I love helping people with social media strategy. I love making viral content, like because none of that feels like for work for me. It's fun.
Yeah,
I feel like I'm hacking something, and it's like I obviously also know there's privilege involved in that. That I know that this is how I can pay my bills, making content, doing a podcast. I totally understand and acknowledge that there's privilege there. But I feel very lucky to be able to do fun stuff and make money because I've also worked really hard jobs where, I've been working since I was 14 and it felt like work. And so for women, we're like being sensual and sexy since you were a teenager. Like if that's just authentic and natural for you and now you're legal and you're like, just play around with it because it's like it can be extremely fucking lucrative. Also full-time marketing job, but like I think that some younger women need that permission.
Totally. And that's why I love social media because it's made it accessible to everyone. If you have a phone and you can make content, like you can, and it doesn't have to be obviously adult content. It can just be TikTok content. It can be YouTube content. Like we have the ability to create money from our own homes, which I think is really amazing.
If you know me and you watch the podcast, you know that I like watching porn for my self-pleasure rituals. One of my favorite websites to go to is exoafterglow.com. What I have found with mainstream porn is that a lot of it is created for the male gaze. It's a lot about the man's pleasure, and it just doesn't feel super authentic and connected. What I really love about Afterglow is that it is for everyone, and it is founded by a woman. I've actually had the pleasure of working with her here in Austin, and I love their mission. You can also find educational porn on their website called EduPorn, and there is just so much to learn and watch there. So go to exoafterglow.com and use code EXOTHEA. As you guys know, I've been very curious about anal play with my male partners, and I'm really excited to share Butter with you guys. Butter Wellness makes men's sexual health and wellness products, including this perineum massager. This applied on the perineum, which is between the ass and the penis of a man, can create prostate orgasms, which are very, very intense orgasms. In addition to that, this tool can also create extra blood flow that goes to the pelvic region. So if anybody has any issues with ED, this can also support with that. This is not to be inserted. This is for external use only. And you can get 20% off by going to butterwellness.com and use code SEGGS, SEGGS. And I think that for me, when I started OnlyFans, the few days I had it, I was under the assumption that people on OnlyFans made videos, and they made videos with other performers, and that's where I would have to go with it. And that's not the case on OnlyFans. However, that was my perception of it. And I also just want women to know that, like, only show what you're comfortable with. You'd be surprised how many men are curious about seeing it. What's starting to feel like, my Patreon's always shifting, but what I like to do is like 10 to 15 minute guided audio eroticas or jerk off instructions, and then sometimes photos. But like, I don't feel comfortable posting videos. I want to save that for somebody. And so Patreon's also a cool solution because it was created more like for artists and photographers, but it's evolving. And they're working on the regulations right now, I think, to allow more video content, but it's a slow process. And
do they not allow any video content right now?
Not really.
Oh, okay.
So it's mostly just like photos and videos, or photos and audios.
Okay.
But you'd be surprised if you have somewhat of a following already. You'd be surprised how many people are curious to see whatever it is you're willing to share. I mean, I've never had any, but I've had people, lots of people, they pay, they see what's behind the paywall, and they leave. Super normal for these platforms. I've never had anybody be like, I'm so fucking pissed off that you're not showing your pussy, or like, like it's,
Yep. And when you're honest in your marketing, like, I'm very upfront. This is always, because all people ask me like, what's on your account? And even when you click on my OnlyFans before you subscribe, it shows your bio. So I list exactly what I do, because I want to make it so easy for them to say yes, because as soon as you break that trust, you've lost long-term wealth from them, or like that long-term relationship. So I've noticed like the more upfront I am, the more they stick around. I remember I've had a couple times where I get really excited about a video and I post it and I'm like, I describe it, and then I didn't describe it as accurately. And I've had fans buy it because they interpreted it a different way than I wrote it. Then they message me saying, whoa, I thought it was gonna be this, it was that, I'm disappointed, I want a refund. And I totally see how they interpreted that, and that's on me. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I am so sorry. It is always my intention to be very clear. Yes, I will make up for it. Like, here's a credit. And they would write me back saying, the fact that you even responded and that you cared and believed me, you're the only woman who's ever done that. Don't even give me a refund. That's all they needed. But
nobody wants to feel misled or
And so I'm very authentic and very like, if I mess up something, I own it. I will make reparations however I can, because I value that long-term trust. Because if there's long-term trust, they'll stay around for a long time.
Yeah. What does your spirituality look like now?
I would say I'm agnostic. I think after going from one hardcore set of beliefs to now believing none of that is true, I hold all my new beliefs very loosely. Like, maybe there's something out there, maybe there's not. But I still feel very spiritual. I feel very woo. I feel very connected to whatever is out there. If it's love, the universe, Mother Earth, it's me, it's God. I don't know what it is. But it's very sacred and special. But I have no interest in religion whatsoever.
What advice would you give to somebody that's maybe in that limbo of in religious and younger, but also curious about their sexuality
like, that reminds me of me. Like, if I could go back in time and give me advice, it's like, honey, listen to your body. Your body knows the truth. Your body is the truth. And I feel like what religion did to me was separate me from my body and told me to listen to outside voices and opinions, my parents, my pastor, but not even my own pleasure. And I feel like the more I tune into my pleasure, the more peace I have, the more power I find, and the more profit I make. So listen to your body. Your body is always telling you the truth and is trying to lead you home.
Yes. And when you start, like I recently had a dating experience where I was starting to kind of second guess my intuition. And it's just like my body is so, for some reason with this guy, and it's just like no second guessing.
Yes.
Yeah. Intuition's everything.
Yep. The more I've trusted my intuition, I mean, that's how I really feel like I've made all this money and all the success is tuning out all the noise of everyone's opinions, even on all the experts. And the more I trust my intuition and do what I feel led to do, it always makes me more money and makes me more happy.
Yeah. I love that. Such a good conversation today.
So good.
Anything you want to talk about with BDSM and kink? That's just personally my favorite subject.
I love it.
Do you bring that into your personal sexual life or anything like that?
Yes, I'm more of a sub, which is so funny and not funny. I think it's actually quite common because I feel like I dominate all day in my business and in my life and my parenting, and all these things. By the time I get to the bedroom, I'm just like, have your way with me. Do whatever you want. I love that. And I actually find the same with a lot of my male subscribers. They dominate all day. They are crushing it. By the time they get to my OnlyFans page, they're just like, have your way with me. So it actually makes me bring out my dom side more. I would say I'm not naturally more dom, but I will do it for them. Yeah. It brings me pleasure knowing I can pleasure you in a way that specifically turns you on. So I've done dom videos for certain fans. I've done bondage videos. I have a fan who loves me being tied up and struggling and trying to escape. And I love filming that for him. And I love that he pays me for it. Here's another thing I love about
interesting request videos. My friend gets requests to sit on a pie. I don't know.
I would so do that. What I love about these men is they are paying me hundreds of dollars for a custom video that they could just go find online for free or could make their girlfriend do uncomfortably if she didn't want to do it. So I love that these men are willing to ethically pay for the content they want to consume. So I'm like, if I can fulfill your fantasy, I will do it. Even if it means tying myself up and bondage in my closet trying to escape, I will do it for you. It's very fulfilling for me.
And they know that it's made just for them. Yes. That feels really special.
Yeah, it's very exclusive, very special. Yeah. My fans know I have a money kink. So I have one fan who sends me cash in the mail, old school. I would never mail
Someone
cash.
just sent me $1,000.
It's the best thing. You open up your envelope and I'm like, every month. I just love this man to pieces. I've had him on my OnlyFans for almost all 5 years and has faithfully sent me cash every month. It's so fun. I've explored all new sides of me I would never have explored had I not had an OnlyFans.
Yeah. I think that because it seems like we both love to talk about money, there's something about cash that's important too, to just explore, because in my kind of money healing journey, I realized how it's not computing because it's a number on a screen and then a transfer, and it's just this elusive energy. And so,
can you grab my purse in that back room?
Oh, are we going to pull out some money?
I just got to show you now that we're talking about money.
And so basically, it's just important to hold it and see it and feel it and do this stuff sometimes, because it's that to me, the more the physical has the erotic energy and the power. And it's my friend who's a manifestation king, he was Google how much it takes, because I want to have a $20,000 launch in a couple of weeks. Yes. I'm going to have a $20,000 launch in a couple of weeks. And he was Google how much $20,000 weighs. What are we going to do with the money?
I just want to show because I think you're right. There's something really powerful about tangible cash. So when I was poor,
it doesn't exist in a way.
Yeah, when I was poor, something I did is I took 30 ones and wrapped it in a wad. And then I wrapped $100 bill around it, which was a really big deal back then because I was so poor. Yeah. So every time I'd open my purse, I would see this fat wad of cash, and it would trigger, I'm rich.
Yeah.
I'm a rich woman. Except I was just trying to lock in this identity of wealth in my body, even though my externals were saying you're extremely poor and you'll never get out of this, right? So I did all these little things to really upgrade my identity from the inside out. So even to this day, even though I use my card for almost everything, I always carry a ton of cash on me. And it's funny because I have an envelope. So one of my friends gave me a Versace envelope, right? So I always have so much money, right? We're going to show like just hundreds. And then, but I'm a disorganized person. So even though I have an envelope specifically for money, it's like, we just have cash just pouring out of my purse. Like I have my purse is almost always cash, which is great. Now they're all going to try to come take it.
I know.
But like this is important for me that every time I open my purse, I want to see a bunch of cash or see a fancy envelope filled with cash. Like every time I open it to pay, I love pulling out this gorgeous red envelope and like it does something to my vibration that if I just whipped out my card, it doesn't feel the same.
Agreed.
So I just wanted to show like to this day, I still do that.
Yeah. So my friend told me to Google what $20,000 in ones would weigh. And I still need to do this as my homework for today to find the weight. It depends on the bills, but I think it was maybe like 4 pounds if it was in ones or something. And so to find something that's 4 pounds and like hold that. But yeah, we're really disconnected from money in that way. You know what I mean? Like we're very disconnected from the exchange of money because, it's just a swipe. It's just this. We're not connected to it in any way.
Yeah. So I love that you had a fan send you $1,000. I love that you're measuring like how much that amount of money will weigh. I do think when I was healing my relationship with money, I had a money altar by my bed. So like a candle, a crystal, a few, I can't remember what I had, ones or fives or 20s or hundreds.
Yeah.
And a check I had written out to myself saying by the end of, I think this next year, I think I'd written out to make like $275,000, which was like basically $1 million to me back then. And I would kiss it every morning and kiss it every night. I still have this check and like, it's like bleached through from all my chapstick, like where I kissed it every night. And I'd be like, thank you, thank you, thank you. That money's always coming to me. Thank you, thank you, thank you that I'm such a rich woman. Long before I went viral, when I was still on food stamps. And then the date I had put on that check, I had exceeded that amount the next year. And I was like, oh my gosh. And you know where I got that idea from was from Jim Carrey. He had written a check when he was poor and homeless, living in a van, and he just knew he's meant to be an actor and he's getting rejected and rejected and rejected. He wrote himself a $3 million check, and in the memo he put for acting services rendered. And then it was after that, like a year or 2 or 3 later, he got the job. Was it Dumb and Dumber, The Mask, it was something like that. And his paycheck from that movie was $3 million. So when I heard that story, that's the night I wrote that multiple six-figure check. I don't even think I have any fucking checks anymore, but I'm going to order a checkbook because I'd like to do that. I don't think I think big enough. I often have people outside of me being like, you're crushing it, you're killing it, you could make this much money, like all this stuff. But it's like that self-doubt always comes up. And it's like, I think I could probably in the next 365 days make $250,000. But the doubt comes in and I'm like stuck at that like $100,000. Like it's there's some exploration to do. So I'm going to order a checkbook. Yes. Write it out. Chase. Kiss Just it kidding. Every day. I don't do sex work. We're educators. Yes. I love that. I think I was just telling someone this week how making money gets easier and easier. The more you make, the easier it gets.
Well, it's easier to ask for more and more money.
Yes, you become more confident. Because I remember when I was poor, my first financial goal was to make $2,000 a month, which felt impossible at that time, right? Yeah. And I like had to like really like lock in and normalize and like make my whole life about that. And now I can make $2,000 a month without even thinking, right? Yeah. It's effortless. Yeah. And so like I've just noticed the more money I make, it just gets easier to make the next level. So I'm excited for you. If you've mastered the 6-figure, it does get so much easier to master the next 6 figures. But part of it is normalizing that. Of course I make multiple 6 figures. Of course I make 7 figures. That's who I am.
And what I've learned, you know, with brand sponsors and stuff for the podcast is like, people don't know if an amount that you ask for feels small or big to you. They know what their marketing budget is. You know what I mean? And so it's like, I could have all this stuff come up asking for a couple $1,000s, but the same company could say yes to $10,000 in a heartbeat. And it's like, you don't know, you can't project your energy about money onto somebody else that wants to give you money.
And once you've normalized big numbers in your body, you'll ask for big numbers and you'll just assume they want to pay me this amount. Yeah. Instead of assuming like, is this too much? I don't know. It's like, here's my rate. Yeah. And then and the beautiful thing is if they can't afford that, that means like you're going to call in someone who can, a company, a team, a gentleman, or whatever it is that you are calling in.
And what I always say is the people that like try to negotiate down, haggle you. Those are the people that end up being the most difficult.
Yes.
Whether it's a client, a brand partner, whatever it is, the people that ask the most, pay you the least are the assholes.
Yeah. Very rarely have I ever had like a high paying client give me any kind of grief, but it is often it does happen. That does happen, but nowhere near as much as the people who haggle for a discount. Yeah. And so when people haggle, it's an instant no. Like that's not, my brand is not discounts. My brand is luxury. My brand is expertise. My brand is mastery. And when you want to master this thing that I teach on, I'm the person. If not, there are plenty of other people you can hire.
Yeah. What's the photo shoot you're going to do today?
Oh my gosh.
OnlyFans thing?
Yeah, it'll be both.
Okay.
So it'll be, I always try to do Instagram and OnlyFans content at the same time. When I was saying I was coming to Austin, I post my social media. Who should I meet up with? What photographer should I work with? So a fan of mine told me about this photographer. Gorgeous work. Like I work with all kinds of photographers. I've never met someone who does his style of photography. There's really amazing lighting, oiled up, like stunning work. Yeah. And I'm so excited he was able to squeeze me in on his very full schedule. So yeah, I'm going right to there after this.
When do you leave again?
On Sunday.
I do kinky film photography. I don't know if you've stalked my kinky film photography page.
I've not.
But I might have time on Saturday. We could talk a little bit. Yeah. I do. Film is so sexy. And anyways, we can talk.
It's so hot. Okay, let's talk.
So what do you have going on in your world right now? Your offers, your gifts?
Oh my gosh. So right now, I have a couple offers coming up next month that I'm really excited about. One of them is my client and I are going to teach a program called the Sexy Single Successful Mama, because there's such a stigma that when you're a single mom, I'm a single mom, she's a single mom, that you will struggle. And
God forbid there be sexiness involved.
Right. Everything that brought the children to the world, you're not allowed to highlight.
Not anymore.
Yes. And so when I got divorced, I was living in California, I was like, I have no option. The failure is not an option. I have to make it. And so I became a really successful single mom, and so did my client, and we want to help more single moms really step into that identity and that empowerment, that just because you're single does not mean you have to be broke or struggle. Like you have the ability to generate as much wealth as you want and really step into your power. We're also going to relaunch our Get Paid to Go on Dates program, which is all about, again, how to get paid to go on dates. We don't offer physical services, so that's something that women are interested in, specifically that niche. We are the mentors for that. We are so good at that and helping women get that. And then I have another offer in July called Money Multiplies for Me. So this is specifically for people who want to really be in the energy of the multiplication of money. And so this is where I'm dropping daily-ish audio drops the entire month to just keep you in the flow and like infuse you with the mindset and the strategy and the stories every day. Just like if you want to make money, you have to like be on it and in it every day. It's not something like I hope to. It's like I am, and today's the day. Today's the day. Yeah. The manifestation is in the action. So that's what is also coming up. So
exciting.
I was gonna say sex work, but it's without the sex.
Money, sexy mamas.
Yes, and sexy mamas and being successful on your terms. Yes.
I love how much you're like doing exactly what the fuck you want to be doing. It's great.
It's so great. It's so fulfilling. I love it.
And where can people find you? What's your Instagram handle?
Yes, come to my Instagram. It's Mitchell Nicole, Mitchell, Nicole with a K.
Her real name.
N-I-K, yes, Nikole, my real name. Or OnlyFans is Nikole Mitchell.
Okay. Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for being here. This was great.
So
Could talk to you for a lot of hours.
I know. This is so great.
To be continued.
You so much.
And thanks for making the journey.
Of course. Anytime.
Yay.